Okay, I should be live right now. Okay, I hope this works. All right, I wanted to do this for a while, but now is the time. I did something similar years ago with all of the Star Wars Expanded Universe Legends novels. So now I'm gonna do the same with the Indiana Jones Expanded Adventure novels. And because there are really not many of them, I can do like the regular novels and the YA novels. So let's take a look. This little nice tier list over here. So this includes the 12 books of, well, 13 US novels, the 8 German novels, then the 15-book Young Indie series, the 7-book French Young Indie series, James Luceno's Matahari Affair, which is an adaptation of an episode of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, but it's an adult novel, not a YA one, and it was supposed to be the start of like a adult novelization series or something that didn't take off, of adaptations of the show. So yeah, that's also in here. And then also controversially, but I wanted to feature them because why not? I have 3 fan fictions in here. And I thought they were worth mentioning. So I think I'm going to do this in the publishing order. Well, technically, then I would have to start with the German series. Let's start with the US series, what most people know. And then I give my quick thoughts on each book. It's going to be kind of difficult to rank the YA books like in one tier with like the regular novels because obviously it's different. And I should mention I'm going to mainly rank them by basically just how much fun they are, how close they are to capturing that Indiana Jones feeling from the movies. Just fun pulp adventures. I'm not asking for much with Indiana Jones novels, really. I just want, a decent story that's told well, good, just pulpy action adventures, some fun dialogues, good characters, memorable characters and interactions. I'm really not asking for high literature with this. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Peril at Delphi by Rob McGregor. Okay, I like this one. I do. I should reread it because it has been a good couple of years. But I liked how he explored a younger Indiana Jones because he also wrote this before the Young Indie Chronicles was out. And it takes place after the events of the show. So 1922 is this one. I like the MacGuffin. It's something different. The Omphalos, or what it's called. I like the setting in Greece. I like the female main villain. I thought that was very good and different from like Last Crusade. It wasn't just a repeat of having like a femme fatale type of villain. And I like that it also stays true to like what Young Indie would do later with bringing in historical characters, because what the plot of this ends up being, featuring an assassination attempt on a certain person in Greece. So what kind of brings it down, it doesn't fully yet feel like an Indiana Jones adventure. It is well written, but it's not as fast paced as the movies or, as you may want it to be. So for now, I'm gonna put it in a good B. I think that's fair. So next one would be, if I can find it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Dance of the Giants. Okay, that's another Stonehenge. Okay, classic thing. Okay, we're gonna use that in an indie story. It was featured a couple of times in different mediums, but I like what's done here. I think this is a very memorable main villain, and I like the main love interest in this, Deirdre Campbell. she's decent. She's not the best, I think, but she is decent enough. I like the return of Jack Shannon in this, because in the first one it's just like, oh yeah, he's a character. But him, returning in this one for the first time, and he's going to return in a couple of McGregor's books, that was nice. So I like the villain, I like his plan, I like the setting. It's shorter and I think faster paced and more intriguing than Parallel at Delphi. I think I'm gonna put this one in A. It's just slightly above Delphi. Definitely worth a read. And I do like how it brings back elements from Parallel Delphi, establishing that these books, yeah, they are going to be connected. Unlike the movies, the books really do have like a continuity to them, with returning characters and returning plot threads. So I enjoyed that in here as well. And that brings me to the third book, and this is the first one where the quality kind of drops. So The Seven Veils. Yeah, this one. I kind of like what Rob McGregor is doing with the Deirdre character, bringing her back, a love interest, bringing her back. That's interesting. I don't mind the plot point. I think it's not a spoiler. People know this. Like, her and Indy getting married. Well, it is well done. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It fits with his character, especially when you think of like the Young Indy Chronicles and how often Indy proposes to women in there. I think that works. It has more of an Indy feeling to it, just because Marcus Brody is in here. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first time Marcus shows up in the books, so I did enjoy that one. I think the setting is compelling, like the Lost City of Z. Again, drawing inspiration from real life, bringing in a real historical person. It's all interesting. Here, McGregor explores like this culture here, which is fascinating. But something about the story structure feels off. It doesn't really have a good main villain. It kind of tries to establish one, but he gets killed very unceremoniously very early on. And that was just weird. And he wasn't established that well to begin with. So that drags it down. And then the ending with the plot, how that develops, because we got Parallel Delphi, the plot, the MacGuffin of this one plays a part in the next book, Dance of the Giants, and I like that. I thought that was unique and something interesting. But then it ties into Merlin, the magician. And then McGregor brings it back again for this one, and that just felt very unnecessary and tired. Like, okay, it was cool the first time, bringing some elements back. Why are you doing this again? Why is everything now connected to Merlin? So, and it was really just the same, like, with the way Merlin is integrated into the story. It was very much the same as the ending to Dance of the Giants. So I wasn't a fan of that in here. It's not horrible, but it is among my least favorites out of the McGregor books, for sure. And I do think Deirdre Campbell in this one isn't as interesting, really, as she was in Dance of the Giants, because Dance of the Giants, she has a relation to the main villain, which was creepy and interesting. And in this one, not really. She and Indy have a relationship crisis, and then the marriage element also factors in here, but I don't think it's that strong. I think it's like a C. Yeah, I think that's fair. And with that, we get to book number 4. Where is it? Oh, there it is. The Genesis Deluge. Okay, the first... Again, that's something I like with these first 3 books. The MacGuffins are kind of obscure. Like, we got the Omphalos, we got... Stonehenge isn't really obscure, but it has like a scroll of Merlins or whatever made up, but and then the Lost City of Z is also a thing that people know, but it's not like ultra famous. But then with Genesis Deluge, McGregor went big because it's about Noah's Ark. And I mean, obviously, that's gonna attract a lot of people. It's often regarded as one of the best, or like the best one of McGregor's, and I would agree. I like Jack Shannon is at his best in here, and he has really changed as a character, because in this book, in the first couple books, he was just like Indy's friend, and he has like mob connections, like his family in Chicago. In this one, he is like a Christian now, and that ties into the whole thing with the search for Noah's Ark. The Russians are involved, and two of them are main characters. They bring Indy into this search for the Ark, all of which is good. I really like this adventure. And I like what is done at the end with, well, McGregor kind of poking fun at himself, because there is a reference to Merlin, which, thank God, it was just in a joking way, because it seems he acknowledged, like, yeah, connecting all of the previous 3 books to Merlin, kind of unnecessary. So this is a jokey element there. But I really liked it. I think this really is the most indie feeling ones of McGregor's 6 books so far, because his books feel different. It is a younger Indiana Jones. He's really building him up as a character. They take place before all of the movies, and Genesis Deluge feels the most so far like one of the films, but still with McGregor's style and flair. I would put it in S. It is one of the most memorable ones that I'm absolutely gonna reread, because yeah, it's just a very fun one. And then we get book number 5, and that is McGregor's here, The Unicorn's Legacy. The title alone is S, obviously, but I like the MacGuffin, a literal unicorn's horn. I like the main villain, the Italian guy. He's fun. I like, with all the books, I haven't mentioned this, but all of the books, because they are set before the movies, McGregor isn't using just the Nazis. And that's great, you know. It doesn't always have to be the Nazis. Like Temple of Doom showed, I like when Indy fights different groups. And fighting the Italians in this one is fun. It's kind of, the problem is the first, I don't even know how much, like most of the book is Indy and the main character, the female main character, Amara, who is fun. I think she's one of the best female sidekicks for Indy in these books. They have to deal with just one guy, like an old acquaintance of both of them, who's a villain, who's after the unicorn's horn, and he's also fine as, like, you know, a villain, a henchman, so to speak. And Jack Shannon is also in here, which that felt unnecessary, because Genesis Deluge really felt like the end of his story. But whatever, Jack, it's fun, it's fine. But then the main villain, the true main villain, the Italian guy, only shows up in the last 80 pages or so. And it really feels like the plot shifted, like it suddenly became a totally different book. And I thought that was weird, how it was structured. So I can't put it higher than B. It is a fun one. It has, if I'm not mistaken, this is the one that has Indy having like a spiritual vision where he just wakes up naked on top of a car. That was fun. But yeah, because it has these little problems that I'm not, you know, that I have problems with, I'm gonna put it in B. Yeah, I think I'm also gonna sort them like within the tier, so it may be above Parallel Delphi. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna put it above it for now. Let's see if I change my mind on that. But that leads to the last, for now, Rob McGregor book. Where is it? Interior World. The Interior World. Okay. This is often regarded as like the worst one. Oh, Shabby Green has a very important question. Is Indy still wearing the fedora when he wakes up naked? I don't think so. It's not specified, so he may be. This can be your headcanon that he's probably wearing the fedora, but nothing else. Okay, so Interior World. It's often regarded as the worst one because this book is insane. It is legitimately the most insane because these previous books, they have supernatural elements, but it's low key and it's, not that insane necessarily. But Interior World really goes for it. It is a fantasy novel, basically, with a totally different fantasy world that Indy travels to. And I'm gonna spoil this element, but Indiana Jones is after the bad guy who wants to give a unicorn's horn to Hitler because he knows the Nazis are rising to power and everything. So Indy is riding a unicorn through an interdimensional portal and ends up jumping through that portal and ends on top of the Statue of Liberty where he has to fight the bad guy. And it's just fucking awesome. It's absolutely crazy. And Marcus Brody has a bigger part at the beginning. I like that. The bad guy and his henchmen are like shape-shifting wizard people. And there's a nice little moment where one of them turns into Henry Sr. So this book is crazy. It's absolutely fucking nuts. But I appreciate that McGregor is just going for it. And yeah, I'm sorry. I know this is controversial. It's short, it's fast-paced, it's the most action-heavy. And if you're just going to read one McGregor book, honestly, do Interior World. It is at the top right now. It's not going to stay there, but I love it. I love it when the indie books go crazy and they do it in just the most fun way. And I'm sorry, Interior World is just a fucking blast to read. Okay, this ends the first 6 books. The Rob McGregor run. I would recommend all of them and reading them in order if you can, if you want to read all of them, because they do, have continuity. And that leads us to the worst stuff. So after Rob McGregor was finished and he was just done because he just wrote like 6 fucking books and he wanted a break, they hired Martin Caidin. And he wrote 2 books, either because he got sick or because he was just straight up fired. I'm not sure what the story there really was, but Indiana Jones and the Sky Pirates. All of these books have awesome Drew Struzan cover art, and that saves this book, because Sky Pirates, the only good thing about Sky Pirates is the cover. Everything in this book is absolutely fucking terrible. So, I love the Indiana Jones expanded material because, unlike with Star Wars, it is hard to fail at an Indiana Jones story because it's just adventure guy has adventure. Like, if you boil it down, that's it. Like, throw in some artifacts, throw in some, history, throw in some awesome location, or he goes to Italy or Greece or India or whatever, or Egypt. It's cool, okay. And there's some local legends or artifacts he finds. There's a female sidekick. It is easier to write than Star Wars, which those books mostly, the authors fail way easier there. It is hard to fail completely writing an Indiana Jones novel, but Martin Caidin did it. Sky Pirates feels like this was a spy thriller about a spy and airplanes set before World War II, and then Indiana Jones was inserted in later, like he replaced the main character's name. This character doesn't feel like Indiana Jones at all. He assembles this ragtag team, like his own little Suicide Squad, and none of them are memorable. The female character is memorable only because she's also in the next book. That's the only reason I remember. Gail Parker, that's the only reason why I remember her. All the other characters are just like forgettable, really forgettable. The plot is Watchmen, the graphic novel. We have bad guys, rich bad guys, teaming up because they know a second world war is inevitable. So they create an apparent alien threat to unite humanity. So they would fight against aliens instead of each other. And to achieve that, they build UFOs. They build a giant airship that ejects UFOs. And their plan is to attack like major cities around the world and destroy them and murder millions of people. So the world unites and another world war is prevented. And Indy and his team have to prevent that. What any of this has to do with archaeology, your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea. There's a little bit at the beginning of Indy forging artifacts, which I have no idea how that factored into anything. Why Indy is working for the government, I have no idea. I think it's because like the chairman, because Indy was working at the University of London in the McGregor books, and I think in this one it's stated that he's like kind of still working there part-time. And especially for like the guy in charge, it's some old dude in a wheelchair, I think. And for some reason that puts him like working for the military. It's so confusing. It's so bad. And the main villains don't get introduced until like the last couple of chapters. And then the book. All of the Indiana Jones stories, not just the novels, also the comics, everything, they end abruptly because, you know, it's pulp adventure. You know, once the story is over, it's done. You know, action, quick, get it done. But this one, I had 2 pages left. The main villain wasn't defeated. The threat wasn't over yet. They were in midair, in like a dogfight, essentially. And then within 2 or 1.5 pages, it was just over. And that shocked me. How quickly that book was just like, done. So yeah, honestly, this doesn't have any good qualities. And most of the book, it's painfully boring. Because again, Martin Caidin doesn't get the feeling or the pacing of Indiana Jones at all. He doesn't get the character himself. What he does get is writing about airplanes non-stop. If you read this book, you too may be able to fly a pre-World War II airplane. Because you can tell that's his obsession. Martin Caidin's big thing. He loves airplanes. I would never recommend this book. This is not only the worst Indiana Jones novel, this is one of the worst, like, franchise tie-in books I've ever read, if not one of the worst books I've ever read. This is terrible. It at times feels like one of those John Gardner, James Bond continuation novels. It's just real trash. And this tier list only goes to D. That's not bad enough. Yeah. Trash. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's reserved for Sky Pirates. I absolutely hate this book. And then let's get to the next one. The second and last Martin Caidin book is... Where is it? Oh, here. Indiana Jones and the White Witch. This one gets points for 1, featuring an actual artifact, and 2, having supernatural elements that are kind of interesting. So Indiana Jones is still working for the government for some reason, and he's still going after the bad guy from Sky Pirates. I can't even remember his name. On my first read, I read these books back to back. I didn't realize that was the same villain. Yeah. That's partially because I'm stupid, but also because these books are just so fucking terrible. My mind couldn't even comprehend it. So the villain is after gold coins. And to get them, he attacked a village full of witches, like actual witches, and stole the treasure map that leads to gold coins from the times of Jesus Christ, I think. That's the thing. And then the main witch, the leader, is after him for revenge, and she teams up with Indy and the love interest, kind of, well, the female from the last book, Gail Parker, because Gail is also kind of a witch. So Indy and these two ladies are after the guy and trying to find the Jesus coins. And I don't remember what they do for most of the book, but I remember the ending having a nice twist, because you think, oh, the artifacts are going to have like a supernatural element to them. But no, it turns out at the end, Indy makes it look like something supernatural happened, when in reality it was just him being clever. And I thought, you know what? That is good. That is genuinely a great idea. And I think it was executed okay. And for Martin Caidin standards, okay is fantastic. So White Witch isn't as bad as Sky Pirates. It's still boring. It doesn't have as much airplane bullshit in it. But it's still not great. I guess the titular White Witch is an interesting enough character. She has like a supernatural sword, which is prominently featured on this awesome Drew Struzan cover. But still, it's not one I would really recommend. Unless if you're like, I want to read all of them. I would still tell you skip Sky Pirates, but if you really want to check out Martin Caidin, sure, try White Witch. You're not going to like it, but you can maybe get through it. So yeah, that's a D for White Witch. And thank God they changed authors again after this. Even though, another negative, this book also ends kind of on a cliffhanger, or at least implies there's going to be more adventures, with this setup of like Indy working for the British and the government and whatever. Yeah, that also led to nothing because, again, Caidin was out. But then the next author came in, Max McCoy, and boy, did he get it right. So Rob McGregor's books took place from 1922 till 1929. Both of Caidin's books were set in 1930, and then Max McCoy jumps to 1933 with Indiana Jones and the Philosopher's Stone. This should be it. Yeah. There's not much to say. Philosopher's Stone, we all know what it is. So now it's a cool MacGuffin. I really like the love interest in this one, who also returns in the next book, and in McCoy's continuity here. So while Caidin did callbacks in Sky Pirates, that's like the one little positive of Sky Pirates. He does establish the continuity by mentioning a bunch of like McGregor stuff, like the love interest Deirdre, or like Jack Shannon shows up for one scene. With Max McCoy, he doesn't really do that, but he does have his own continuity because his 4 books have one overarching storyline about Indy having found like a crystal skull, and that curses Indy that if he sleeps with a woman, she's gonna die. And throughout the 4 books, Indy is trying to get this crystal skull back. So that's a fun little element there. So yeah, I would say Philosopher's Stone also really feels the most like an Indy movie. Out of all the books, McGregor's intentionally didn't really feel like the movies because it was a younger Indy, establishing the character, whatever. And Martin Caidin was just a shitty writer. But Max McCoy just really went for it. Like, you can tell this guy watched the movies a lot in preparation, probably, because it is like, you can imagine Philosopher's Stone, beat for beat, this can be adapted as an Indiana Jones movie. He really nails the tone, the comedy, the pacing, it's all there. It's firing out of all cylinders. It is definitely up there. I still kind of prefer Interior World for being batshit crazy. So, yeah. And then the next book, though, The Dinosaur Eggs. Oh boy. Talk about crazy. Indiana Jones, he teams up with a nun who's looking for her father, who went missing in Mongolia or something, because he apparently found fresh dinosaur bones which means there may still be living dinosaurs. So Indy goes with her to find him, and a real life person who's like an expert on dinosaurs. And the setup is crazy. It reminds me of the Western Two Mules for Sister Sarah, starring Clint Eastwood. So that's fun. There's a lot of really fucking great comedy in here. I think this is one of the funniest ones. It's one of the most action heavy, and it ties into the movies. Like Max McCoy, because we are only 2 years away from Temple of Doom taking place in 1935. So he's already setting up characters and stuff from the movies. I should have mentioned Philosopher's Stone. It's the first time Sulla showed up in the books, at least in the Bantam US adult series, and that was great. And in this one, Dinosaur X, McCoy establishes how Indy met Wu Han for the first time. His friend who gets shot at the beginning of Temple of Doom. That is great. I really like that because Lao Che is also in here, and we get a little origin story how he and Indy first met and stuff. That is all great. Dinosaur X is really just fantastic. I would put this one even before Interior World. Yeah, I think that's where it's gonna stay now. Sadly, after Dinosaur X, the quality dips just a little bit. With the Hollow Earth. It's still fun. It is decent. It's something different with the snowy setting, Antarctica and whatever. And it does tie into like a real life Nazi occult shit. So what I like in Dinosaur X, the Japanese are there as the villains, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously Philosopher's Stone was the Italians, but Hollow Earth does feature the Nazis as the main villains, which is good. And again, it does tie into like real life Nazi mystical bullshit that was going on. And it does feature, as a positive, it does feature Belloq, which I also should have mentioned. There's Belloq, his first time meeting Indy, which isn't canon anymore, because they met canonically for the first time in the 20s when Indy was still a student. That is also in Dinosaur X, the origin for the rivalry between Belloq and Indy. That's another point in Dinosaur X's favor. And Belloq is also in Hollow Earth, and he's great in this one as well. But I don't know. Something was just not sitting right with me here. It does feature more real-life stuff. It features another, prominent real-life person in there to kick off the plot. But it just didn't really work that well for me. I'm gonna put this in B. Because I really don't know what it was, but it doesn't contradict like Interior World, if I'm not mistaken, because the Hollow Earth thing here is just the Ultima Thule. It's like this realm underneath Antarctica, and there's like the substance that the Nazis want that can heal people, for example. And that is fine, and there's like a fine little action scene where a bunch of like skeletons come out of the ice and attack the people, so that's cool, but before that, most of the journey I didn't think was all that interesting. Great moments in there, like I said, with Belloq, for example, and the Crystal Skull storyline gets mostly wrapped up. But yeah, it just didn't rock as hard as Dinosaur X did. But that brings us to book number 4, the last of the McCoy books. The Secret of the Sphinx. I love Egypt as a setting for like pulpy adventure stories and mysteries. That was great. Indy is teaming up with a magician lady and her daughter. Her daughter is literally named Mystery. And the main MacGuffin is the Omega book. in which everything that has ever happened and will ever happen is written down. And the bad guys in this are the Japanese, which is also pretty unique and fun. I think this is just a fantastic book. This definitely goes in S. I'm just thinking where I would put it. It also does wrap up the Crystal Skull story. And it leads into one scene that's kind of confusing and maybe a point against it, because it kind of features a time travel aspect, a spiritual time travel, that I didn't fully get the point of. It really comes like as its own separate thing after the main adventure is already over. And then Indy talks to Albert Einstein, which he isn't named, but you immediately get like who this guy is supposed to be that Indy is talking to. I heard the original book outline was rejected because time travel was like a bigger element, and McCoy wanted young Indy to meet old Indy. Or at least, no, it was supposed to be young Indy getting transported to like current day 1990s New York. So I'm just guessing he would have met his old self, like from the Young Indy show, Eye Patch Indy. And that would have been fucking awesome. That would have made this the greatest indie novel of all time. But as it is great. It is fun. And even the time travel aspect at the end, it feels separate from the rest, but it's still an interesting thing. It has to go in S, but it's not as strong as these two, as Dinosaur X and Interior World. Okay, that was the Max McCoy run. That basically ends the original Bantam novel US series. So how are we gonna do this? We could either jump into the German series or just get Army of the Dead out of the way. This was supposed to be the great start for a new novel series. So they got Steve Perry. But okay, you know what? No. We're gonna go with the we're gonna stay in the 90s and do the German novels. And we're gonna start with, there it is, Indiana Jones and the Feathered Serpent. Okay. I'm just gonna come out and say it. Wolfgang Hohlbein is the best author of Indiana Jones novels. I think he beats McGregor. I think he beats McCoy. Hohlbein nails the feeling of Indiana Jones. Not in all of his books. I have a little problems later on, but he fucking nails it. Like, holy shit. And I don't know if it's... I don't think Hohlbein is a great author. I have read some of his original novels. I'm really getting into his stuff. I think he's a competent author. And I think he's kind of shitty as an author. And I think that makes him perfect for Indiana Jones, because Indy is pulp, like shitty pulp novels. That Hohlbein just gets that. Like, the plot makes sense. He nails the action, the comedy, the characters, the character interactions and stuff. Everything in here, the supernatural elements, he just nails every aspect, in my opinion. Maybe it's biased because German author and I'm the German, so I have to give him preference. But you know what? No. If you haven't read these books, which you probably haven't because they have never been officially translated to English, the English fan translations are out there. I don't know how good they are, but they should be decent enough that you get it, because God damn it, I have very rarely had this much fun just reading like an adventure novel. Like, it's just fantastic. I was blown away on my first read of this. The only critique I could give is that the chapters are very long. So if you're someone who wants like shorter chapters, because the pacing can benefit from that, and like your own feeling of reading it. That would be the only little problem, but holy shit, Feathered Serpent fucking nails it. And unlike most of the other Holbein indie novels, this one is set in 1932. All the other ones are set during the Second World War. So let's get to that with the second one, The Ship of the Gods. I think the premise is great. There's a lot of stuff in this one I like. Indie is still well written. The action that is in here is good. Most of it takes place on a journey to an iceberg in an airship, and the airship is cool. But I think the pacing in this one for me kind of suffers, because with Feathered Serpent we really had like a globe-tropping. I can't speak. You know what I mean? We had so many different locations and so many different action scenarios in Feathered Serpent. And then Ship of the Gods, it's more condensed. Most of it, again, takes place in that airship. And then on the iceberg, the Iceland. Odin's Land is the code name. And those are cool locations, but it kind of drags it down a bit for me. Especially because I read this like straight after Feathered Serpent. Yes, thank you, exactly. Hello there. They are translated well enough. I will say, the one thing I have noticed, two people bring up in the first book, Feathered Serpent, in the English translation, the translator fucked up once, because Indy mentions his credit card early on, and that's a mistranslation. In the German original text, he's talking about a letter of credit, which is something different. So that's the only thing I know that's definitely wrong in there. For anyone that reads it and questions like, why is there a credit card? That's just a little translation error there. Don't worry about it. Yes, so with Ship of the Gods, it is great. So when Ship of the Gods goes crazy, it goes beyond fucking crazy. It almost beats out Interior World in terms of being completely just like crackhead fantasy. I have to kind of spoil it just a little bit what the elements is. So the Ship of the Gods, for the longest time I was under the assumption this book deals with aliens. That's what I've heard, but this is wrong. This deals with Viking mythology and stuff, and the Longship is the ship that's supposed to bring the last Vikings to Valhalla. And it makes people that go near it turns them into angry berserkers. So this book also, I think that's also a reason I found this not as great of a read. It reads unpleasantly because, especially in the prologue already, people act really angry. It has like this unpleasant atmosphere to it, the entire book. But what happens with the ship and the bad guy when he gets it, like, the supernatural stuff in here is fucking insane. That is its biggest strength. But then the negatives also. I'm not a big fan of the female sidekick in this one, because I think she acts like a total cunt for most of it. And then we're supposed to like buy that there's like kind of romantic feelings between her and Indy, and that just doesn't work at all, because I hate her because of the way she comes across for most of the book. The main villain is like a twist reveal. That's fine. That is a plus point. The villain is a Nazi, because on this journey there are multiple countries working with the US, and India is there. And one of the countries is Germany, because this is 1939, but just shortly before the outbreak of the war, and the US isn't involved yet anyway. So a bunch of Germans are there, a bunch of Nazis. But only like a select few of them are evil. Like there's like infighting basically. And one of them specifically is like the good Nazi, so to speak, because he does realize this shit is fucking crazy. And he kind of teams up with Indy at the end. So that was like a unique aspect. It's not a bad book at all, but I think it's my least favorite of the Holbein Indy novels. I would put it in C. It's above Seven Veils. But yeah, it is my least favorite of Holbein's. But that is a high bar because, again, I think he is the best indie writer, really. Third one would be The Gold of El Dorado. Okay. This one is... So, Feathered Serpent and Ship of the Gods, they've really nailed the feeling of Indiana Jones and Indy's character, but they didn't bring in much Indy stuff. This one, it takes place in, I think, 1943. So really in the middle of the war. And it features Marcus Brody prominently. Like, he's really in on the adventure. It has a great female character as Indy's sidekick. There's great stuff going on there. It has a very interesting premise with, what's behind the gold of El Dorado, the city of gold and everything. And it's not a supernatural explanation, which I like, more of a kind of scientific one. There's a nice spin on it. And this one probably has one of the best villains in all of Indiana Jones, because most of them are somewhat forgettable, but this one, he's like this deformed crook who's just one sadistic bastard, and I really enjoyed him as the antagonist. And yeah, not much else to say. This one, again, I think it nails the pacing, the action, the comedy, the characters. It's all there. You know what? Just for the villain alone, I think the villain being as good as he is, he alone is the reason I'm going to put this before even Feathered Serpent. And it continues strong, because the next one is The Sword of Genghis Khan. Oh boy. Oh boy. Again, this one is set in the middle just of World War II, but we don't get the Nazis. We get like the Chinese, the Japanese, the Russians, everyone, the Mongols, everyone is after the sword of Genghis Khan. Word has gotten out, the sword is in a monastery. And it has to be, whoever gets the sword of Genghis Khan is going to lead the Mongol army, because that plot point is kind of confusing. But they are just invincible berserkers, apparently. So Indy gets approached by a female Russian and agrees to go on this, hunt for the sword. But early on, she gets kidnapped, and it turns into like Indy has to get the sword and her, rescue her as well. And to do that, he has to team up with a Japanese guy named Moto. And Moto starts out disguised as like this, this clumsy, silly Japanese man, but it turns out this is the most hardcore badass agent ever. And they team up for the adventure, but they don't get along, because Indy knows at any fucking moment this guy is just gonna fucking kill him. It's a really uneasy relationship going on there, and I love it. This partnership is awesome. I like the locations in here. I like the sword of Genghis Khan as the MacGuffin. There isn't really a supernatural element by the end. Not really. But I like how Indy defeats the villains. The action in here, again, it's on point. The general setup is great. Marcus Brody gets another cameo. I just mentioned because, it's Marcus. It's always great when he shows up. This is very high up there. Very high. It's definitely one of the German novels. You should check this one out. I don't want to spoil too much, but again, this one has one of the best endings, One of the definitely best, especially in Indiana Jones in general. Like I said earlier, most of the Indiana Jones stories end abruptly. This one kind of does too, but what Indy does with the artifact is so simple yet clever and so unique. I love it. So yeah, that's sort of Genghis Khan. Now I have to think. Not that I get the books out of order. What was next? I'm actually sorry. I have to look this up quickly because I don't want to risk being an idiot. I think the next one was The Lost Tribe, but I may be mistaken because I'm never sure what comes first between that and Easter Island. No, I was right. Yep. Indiana Jones and the Lost Tribe. This often gets translated as The Lost People because of the original title being Das verschwundene Volk. Volk, yeah, okay, it means people in most cases, but within this story, like when I think of the German word Volk, I think I associate that more with like a specific group of people. And it sounds really stupid and clunky in English if you just title it Indiana Jones and the Lost People. And I think it's not literally the German word for tribe, but it makes sense. It should be used here as the English title, The Lost Tribe. It sounds better. It makes sense. It is the most fitting translation, even though it's not directly literal. It is the best. You should call it that. Yeah, Indiana Jones and the Lost Tribe of the Sith. Okay. Lost Tribe is frustrating because half of it is the greatest Indiana Jones novel ever written. And then the other half drags it down. The entire setup. So Wolfgang Hohlbein goes crazy in most of these books, which I like, again, because I like crazy indie stuff. But this one, holy shit. Okay, it starts out with an Indian, a Native American, from a tribe that has apparently just been wiped out, like thousands of years ago, suddenly showing up in like an Amish town and dying. So some little kid is searching for Indy to, shed light on this situation. But Indy has his own story going on. That's the main story for the first hundreds of pages. Indy and a colleague of his called Shlomo Patrick, a Jewish intellectual, have been kidnapped by a gangster called Malone. And Malone has like his own little group of thugs, and those guys are awesome. There is some of the best action, some of the best comedy of all Indiana Jones stories in here. It's just about Indy and Shlomo trying to escape these like American thugs, and it's the greatest thing ever. It's just one action scene after the other. It's just fun, okay? And I love it. I absolutely fucking love it. If that had been it for the book, it would have been a 10 out of 10 greatest indie novel. And then we get to what the main plot actually is, because the main plot, the reason why these gangsters are after Indy and Shlomo is because Shlomo Patrick, this random Jewish guy, invented a machine that can accurately date any object it scans. It scans like your watch, and it can tell you exactly when this watch was manufactured. It scans a piece of I don't know, like a broken wall, and it can tell you when was this made. Turns out this machine somehow interferes with a magical thing, an aura, so to speak. It interferes with the magic system created by this Native American tribe, because they haven't been wiped out thousands of years ago. They escaped or traveled into the past and froze themselves on this one specific day in this specific year, and they've been living there for thousands and thousands of years. So this random Jewish guy accidentally basically invented a time machine, and Malone and his gangsters are after it. The main bad guy is like a preacher who wants this. He wants to travel to this past, to this old world of these Native Americans, because he wants to convert them to his religious beliefs, which is nuts. And then the secondary antagonist he's called Jake. And the book pretends he is Fedora. He's the main guy from the opening of Last Crusade, the guy who Indy got his fedora from. Garth is his real name, actually, but the book calls him Jake and pretends he's a half-blood, so half Native American. This doesn't fit with with how the actor looks in the movie. The characterization doesn't fit with what is shown in the movie, because the movie makes it clear, oh no, Garth Fedora, he's like an honorable man, he's like a treasure hunter, a scoundrel, but a good guy, basically. You get that. In this book, he's a straight-up villain who kind of hates Indy, and it's just weird. It feels like Holbein hasn't seen Last Crusade in a long while, but he wanted to make this book like a kind of sequel to the Last Crusade opening, because he brings in this wannabe Garth Fedora character as the villain. He brings back the fat Boy Scout, who later on he would be identified as Herman Mueller and have his role in like the Young Indy books. In this one, he gave him a different name, like Howard Wojcinski or something like that. With that one, it's okay. You can just pretend that's just like a different fat kid that Indy knew from the Boy Scouts, because he doesn't reference like Last Crusade or whatever. So those continuity problems bring it down for me. The time travel aspect itself is so fucking crazy. I love it. But again, it's the whole Fedora thing that turns it down. But there's also a twist on top of twists at the end with Malone and his gangsters. Indy also teamed up with twin sisters who are hot air balloon pilots. I love it. And there's also a twist regarding them. Everything in here is crazy as fuck and with twists upon twists. And I don't know. I have my problems because I do care about continuity. But as a fun read, this book would be an S. At first I was going to go C, but I have to put it in. Fuck it. I'm going to put this in A. In strong A, even. Oh boy, I'm already losing my voice and we are just halfway done with the Holbein novels. So, Secret of Easter Island. This is the shortest of the Holbein novels, and it feels bare bones. But it is a great little adventure. So I'm kind of torn on this one. I don't know what's the reason. I'm just assuming, so for those of you, probably all of you, the English-speaking viewers, who have no idea who Wolfgang Holbein is, he is one of the most prolific German authors, because this guy releases 30 books a year. Like, I don't think this guy has ever stopped writing. It is insane. So I assume these books were written quickly, which is kind of more impressive, I guess, because they are like of quality in that sense. But this one feels rushed. Like he just had to get this one out. And the setting is great because it deals with Easter Island. It deals with not directly Easter Island. It's a separate island that inhabits like the like descendants of the original inhabitants of Easter Island. And there's a magical crystal. There's a cool native society underground with like their own like cool village and stuff. There's mind control going on. There's this crystal with like its own mind, and the Nazis are the bad guys. It has all of these elements, but it is good. It is fun. I would recommend it, but it's a bit bare bones. I'm gonna put it in B, strong B, but yeah, he could have done more with it, I feel like. Because this book, it really doesn't have any fat on it. So, next one after this, if I'm not mistaken, it already is, yep. Labyrinth of Horus. The less I say about this one, the better. This is my personal favorite Indiana Jones novel. Okay. I love the setting. It's Egypt. It's dealing with an old friend of Indy, a teacher, has gone missing. His children are teaming up with Indy to find him, and the teacher has found a labyrinth underneath, the sands of Egypt. And the less I say here, the better. This is just a movie in book form. This nails it in every aspect. I love it. I'm sorry I can't say more about it, but this is my absolute favorite indie novel because it was just the most fun. And just thinking about it now really makes me want to reread it. Like, it's so fucking good. If you like indie stories set in Egypt, read this one. Just so fucking good. And that leads us to the last German Indiana Jones novel, The Legacy of Avalon. Okay. Again, Wolfgang Holbein going crazy and taking a different approach to what you may expect by the title. London, all of England is under attack from the Nazis, getting bombed. So, because of that, Sir Lancelot, as promised, as prophesied, travels from Avalon to modern-day England to defend it. But he gets captured by the Nazis. And the Nazis want to, gain his trust or, his partnership and whatever to gain access to Avalon because they want to find Excalibur, the sword. Indy is teaming up with, an elderly language expert and, a Belgian resistance fighter and Lancelot's, little aide. This book is nuts because the main villain is Belloc. And there's a twist to it. It makes sense and it works. I'm not gonna spoil it. You can already guess what the twist basically has to be, but this one is just so much fucking fun with such a silly premise. But I just think this is great and this should be read. This is silly, sure, but you're gonna have a good time with it. The only little problem I want to mention is the continuity because again, it's so weird. Wolfgang Holbein nails the feeling of an Indiana Jones movie. He gets it the most out of every author. What he doesn't get is the actual information from the movies, because again, him turning the fedora treasure hunter character into a villain, when the movie clearly shows, he's a scoundrel with good value, you don't get that feeling in the movie. Or in this one, he does mention Belloc from the movie. But he doesn't call him René Belloc, which is his name, which is said in the movie. In this book, because Holbein apparently hasn't seen Raiders in a while, he calls Belloc by first name Jacques Belloc, because he just thought of the first generic French name. So yeah, that's a little continuity fuck up, but this is a strong A. I really like this one. Okay, so that ends the German series. Okay, so German series done, US series done, and after this, there was the Young Indie series. But before that, I want to jump into the Indiana Jones revival with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Because they really attempted, they tried, but they failed, sadly. Okay. Indiana Jones and the Army of the Dead by Steve Perry. I like Steve Perry. I've read a bunch of his books. I've read this one. I've read his novels for Alien. I've read his Star Wars stuff. And I do think he's like a solid author for like franchise tie-in slop. He's easy to read. Easy and fast to read. It's fun. It's good. I get what he's attempting with Army of the Dead, because it feels very different to other Indiana Jones stories. The villains really get the spotlight. We got a German villain, we got a Japanese villain. They are not working together really for the most part, so that's cool. We get two different viewpoints there. And we get a local voodoo priest who's like the main villain. And then Indy and Mac from Crystal Skull. This is set during World War II, by the way. And Indy's plot is short, really. He's just on this Haitian island, and he's searching for this magical stone. And the voodoo priest wants it because it can give him more powers, and he wants to raise an army of the undead. And Indy is fighting zombies. And all of that is fun. We are restrained to this one location. It's not necessarily a problem. And while I do like the approach of doing something different, with having so much focus on what the villains are doing, having 3 villains, German, Japanese, and voodoo priest, it doesn't give Indy enough time. Indy is written well. The book is easy to read. I like the basic concept, but it doesn't mesh that way. It doesn't really come together. And while I wouldn't say this is the worst Indy book, it has to go in D. I would recommend this if you want to read all of the Indy novels, but I wouldn't recommend this for people as a jumping in point. If this is your first one, you shouldn't read this as your first Indy book at all. So sadly, I have to put it here. They should have tried writing a more standard book first, and then if that is successful, continue with something like this where you can experience more, with the formula. But after this, they did the Untold Adventure series. 2 books, because it got cancelled, because nobody was reading or buying Indiana Jones books. It's just me, basically. The Pyramid of the Sorcerer by Ryder Windham. Another Star Wars author. I like him. I read his Star Wars work as well. I would say it gets a B. It is decent. The main plot is very similar to Secret of the Sphinx, because Indy is after a place where you can learn everything that's ever going to happen. And the Nazis are the villains. They are after it. I like the female sidekick well enough. She's like a pilot lady. That's fun. Surprisingly, there's continuity in this. Apparently, they were attempting with this Crystal Skull era revival of Indy to make it more like Star Wars and have the books and stuff connect, because Ryder Windham brings in a character from an Indy Choose Your Own Adventure book, which is insane. So it's a decent book. It is short. It's an easy read. It's fun. It's YA. It's set during World War II, obviously. I would recommend it. It's fun. But then we get the sequel. Mystery of Mount Sinai. Okay, the positives. Indy is written well. There are a couple of good scenes, like Indy infiltrating Italy like a place and seeing Benito Mussolini. There's a nice scene with Indy and Henry Sr., which is just nice because it's after Last Crusade and their relationship is better now. That's nice. I still like the female character, Bert. She's fun. And I like the villain, who's really silly. He's the Nazi with the robot arm, which was from concept for Raiders. That's all the good stuff. The problem is I have no fucking idea what this book is even about. I don't know what the MacGuffin is supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be somewhat like aliens. But the book is all of that is so confusingly written. And apparently hinged on getting a sequel, because there is sequel bait, with the next book apparently would have taken place in Japan. So just for how fucking confusing this is, I have to put it in D. I'm sorry. I put it before Army of the Dead just because it has those good elements are really good. But I can't recommend something that I literally didn't understand. Yeah. And it was written by J.W. Rinsler, who's also a Star Wars guy, like he did the making of books. And he did the god awful comic adaptation, The Star Wars, the original screenplay as a comic, which was abysmal. So yeah, maybe he's just not a good fiction writer, I don't know. So that was basically it with like, yeah, those in the novels, like the mainline adventures. So that leads us to young Indiana Jones. Or, no, you know what? Let's do it quickly. The novelizations of the movies. Campbell Black's Raiders of the Lost Ark novelization. It's atmospheric, it's well written, it's a bit darker than the movie in some aspects. Oh, especially what it does, like with expanding Marion's backstory a little bit. Oh, yeah. I like it. I would definitely recommend it, but I'm gonna put it in C. It's solid, but from a novelization, I expect a bit more, which we get with the next one. Temple of Doom by James Caan, who also did my favorite Star Wars novelization, Return of the Jedi. He adds a lot while not expanding the page count dramatically. Because the novelization, the first three at least, are pretty short, but they add so much in limited space. And with Temple of Doom, Caan puts more focus on Willie Scott and Short Round. He gives them both very nice backstories, and I think that's all very, very, very great. And Temple of Doom is my favorite indie movie, so I have to give this one an S. You know what? Just because it is I'm gonna put it above a couple of these, maybe. See, that's hard now because the movie novelizations, it's just a novelization. Should I put it above the original stories in these novels? I'm gonna put it at least above Genesis Deluge. Yeah, I think that's where I stand with that one. I really, really like it. Then we got The Last Crusade by Rob McGregor, his first indie novel. And of course, it also has to go into S. It's not better than. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's Last Crusade. Like, what you're gonna say? Temple of Doom may be my favorite of the movies, but Last Crusade is Last Crusade, and he expands on it very nicely. Yeah, not much to say. This is a great novelization, and sadly, that can't be said for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull by James Rollins. Okay, it is Crystal Skull. He has to adapt that movie that I'm not a big fan of because I think the script is not good. Not good. He tries to fix it. He tries. And I give him points for that. It's a good C. It's in the middle. It's worth a read. It is better than the movie. Because again, Rollins tries. He obviously recognized some of the flaws that the script has. And he tries to fix that as good as he can. So it's a commendable effort. Okay, those were all the novelizations because Dial of Destiny didn't get one. And I just want to point this out. I think Dial of Destiny is dog shit, but that is the one Indiana Jones movie that would greatly benefit from having a novelization because you could actually fix a lot of the plot problems there. And at least Indy's character and his arc, because he doesn't have an arc in the movie. I complained about that film enough. and how stupid modern audiences are if they think that is a good film. But it can be like I can see a novelization of that actually working if you get a good author to do it and allow him to slightly rewrite some of the scenes, dialogues, and go more into like internal, the thoughts of the characters and stuff. That could have been done with that movie. I don't know if there is a good fan novelization out there. Please let me know, because with indie, I'm open for fanfics. I have some on the list here, so yeah. I do wish they would have released one, because why not? You already lost enough money. Printing a novelization wouldn't have been like so bad. Yeah. Okay, this leads to okay, I'm stupid. 2 more. Another novelization, which I just read recently. The Mata Hari Affair by James Luceno. It's a novelization of the episode of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. A script written by Carrie Fisher and George Lucas. Oh boy, what a team up. James Luceno is one of the greats. You get this profile picture. This is the man. This is the real life Indiana Jones, for fuck's sake. And they gave him, the only thing they let him write was a novelization of a romance episode of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. The world is so fucking unfair. It's unbelievable. You have James fucking Luceno, and you give him the Mata Hari Affair. He made an episode, which I think is fine, but it's like a 6 out of 10 for me. He made it into an 8 out of 10. He changed a lot. And this book isn't long at all, but I would say most of the dialogue is different. Some of the scenes are different. Granted, I haven't seen the episode in a while. I could be misremembering some of this, but Luceno really did make this its own thing. And he added this stands on its own, and I would absolutely recommend this one as an indie in the World War I backstory. Yeah, it's great. I didn't expect this to be as good. Luceno, I knew what a great author he is, but he surprised me. This is an A. I can't put this above these, because these are like adult indie adventures. Honestly, it's tough. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it here, because Luceno, god damn it, he's old now. He's still alive. If there is even one, if I can have one wish in life, I want James Luceno to write Indiana Jones books. Let him do it. Just let him fucking do it. You have the guy. Okay? He's worked for Bantam, he's worked for Del Rey. He's worked for Star Wars, for the Star Wars franchise. Why did you never give him Indiana Jones besides this one and a source book? They gave it to Steve fucking Perry. Okay. And then we have Rob McGregor's triumphant return to Indiana Jones with the novelization of the video game, The Staff of Kings. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice here. Okay. I've never played Staff of Kings, obviously, because, I don't like video games. This novelization is great. This is the McGregor book that feels the most like an Indiana Jones movie, because it's a novelization. It's someone else's story, and they tried to do a full-on indie adventure. As someone who has never played the game, I could follow the story. It's a nice globe-trotting adventure. I don't know why I have such problems saying that, but yeah. I think it's great. And I'm glad McGregor got to go out on such a fun book that feels like a classic indie adventure, I would probably rank this as an A. See, now I want to rank this above these 2 Holbein novels, because I appreciate those. I may have more fun with those because they go crazy as hell. But Staff of Kings feels more like a classic indie, where it does go crazy with the supernatural. I mean, Indy is parting the sea like Moses at the end, so that is crazy. But it still has more of the grounded feel of the movies to it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put this one here. This leaves only Young Indy and the fanfics I have selected here. Okay, let's do it. This is the difficult part, because how do I rank these compared to like the regular indie novels where he's an adult? Okay, Indiana Jones and the Plantation Treasure. I was surprised by this one because it came out before the Young Indy show, but it feels like it could be an episode. It has a lot of real world history, which is interesting, and it can teach kids, hey, this was a thing. So that's nice. But it's not quite as memorable. I'm just going to rank these by how much fun I had with them, because they are YA books. I'm going to give this one a B. It's a solid introduction to this series. It doesn't have supernatural elements to it, but it has a good story. And it introduces a character who's going to reappear. Then we got... I can't even read that. Sorry, my brain is mush. I can't even think straight. I'm just gonna pull up a list of the titles because I'm an idiot, and I'm gonna mix it up, the order and everything. Okay, yeah, I would have fucked up right now. The second one is Tomb of Terror. This is great. This is Indiana Jones in Egypt. His first time meeting Sulla. He's fighting the Germans, not the Nazis, because this is like 1913, I think, 1913, 14. It's great. It's a great prequel that you can read on your own. It has Marcus Brody in it, which is fun, a nice little cameo there. Again, Indy's first meeting with Sulla. And the whole plot with Indy is fighting the Germans, and he meets the ghost of the pharaoh Tutankhamun, which is awesome. It is absolutely fantastic. This is because Plantation Treasure, the first one, it could have been an episode of Young Indy. That's how it feels. It's grounded. It deals with a real historical thing. Tomb of Terror introduces the supernatural stuff into Young Indy, because the show doesn't really have it, apart from the Dracula episode, of course. But holy shit. I would say this right now for the entire Young Indy book series. These books are the perfect mix of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which are like historical dramas, basically, and the movies, which are pulpy adventures with supernatural shit. This book series is the perfect mix. And this was the perfect introduction to that. So this one goes in S. I have to put it in S. It's so good. Then we got The Circle of Death. It deals with Stonehenge. It brings in Herman Mueller, the fat Boy Scout from Last Crusade. It has an actual evil German wizard. I have to put this in A for the fun factor. What is next? A Secret City. There it is. It's in Turkey. It's about a cult that lives underground, and the MacGuffin is the Knife of Cain. And if someone is cut by the Knife of Cain, there's going to be a century of terror upon the world. A has to go in A, even above Circle of Death. Great concept, very fun. Princess of Peril. Indy teaming up with a Russian princess. It's good. Not the best, but it's a fun story. It's B. The Gypsy Revenge. Indy and France fighting a man in an iron mask whose plan is to become the king of France with the help of the German Kaiser. And before World War One, and there's already scheming going on, like in many of these young indie novels. Again, fun factor is very high with Young Indiana Jones and the Gypsy Revenge. I almost want to put this in S because how insane that is, but no, I'm gonna put it in a very good A. The next one would be The Ghostly Riders. Indie in England, helping like a classmate there and having like another time travel. India has a lot of time travels before Dial of Destiny, which is interesting. It's fun. It's very solid. It's not the most memorable. I'm gonna put it in B. It's a good B. But yeah. Next one is The Curse of the Ruby Cross. Indie in New York. A lot of people are after an Italian immigrant's like family heirloom, which is like the titular Ruby Cross, because it can summon a ghost of a very specific historical person. It's good. I think I'm gonna drop this one in A. After that, we got The Titanic Adventure. I appreciate the balls of dropping in. Okay, I know indie is very connected with real world history anyway. Putting him on the Titanic, though, and foiling a German plan to blow the ship up. It's great. This one also features his tutor, Miss Seymour, from the Young Indie Chronicles show. For the first time, if I'm not mistaken, in the book. So yeah, it's an S. It's an S. These are the ones I would recommend the most out of the Young Indie series, for sure. What was after Titanic Adventure? We got The Lost Gold of Durango. This one is a Western, basically. Indy is befriending like a native kid, like a teenager, I think, whose father was like a criminal. And they are going after the treasure that was hidden, but they are also criminals after it. The other guys that like robbed the bank with the native guys dead, I think. It's good. I have problems with the ending because there's like an old guy who shows up who may or may not be Billy the Kid. Yeah, I didn't fully get that part, which is why this one, it only gets a B because of my stupidity, I guess. I just didn't fully understand that part. Oh yeah, that would make the book better if you imagine this takes place during the James Cameron movie and young Indiana Jones is just running around doing his own thing. Very, very nice. After Lost Gold of Durango, we got The Face of the Dragon. There it is. This is fun because it's Indy and Henry Sr. together. In China, everyone is after this dragon statue, which is said to have like magical powers. So Indy and Henry have to fight a bunch of like different Chinese groups. It is fun because it's a father and son adventure, which we don't get too often. And I do like the solution to the supernatural with the dragon statue. I'm gonna put this one in A. Yeah, I would put this before this one, actually. Yeah, it's a very solid A. After this, we get Journey to the Underworld. Indy is in Greece, and there's a plot going on. A person being kidnapped, a valuable artifact being stolen by like this infamous thief. Infamous, famous thief. And Indy is trying to save this person and solve that problem with the artifact being stolen by this guy. And he's basically reenacting like a Greek legend. This takes place in Greece as well, which is, again, it's a nice location for an adventure. I really like it. It doesn't have supernatural elements, but I just appreciate how this one is done, with Indy reenacting, so to speak, this uh, legend. So I would put Journey to the Underworld in A as well. This is actually high up there. After that, we get The Mountain of Fire. Oh yeah, we need to ask him. He should read all the indie books and comics that take place in Greece. That would be fun. Okay, where's it? Mountain of Fire. It's Indiana Jones in Hawaii. He's surfing. There's Germans. The First World War has begun, and there's the return of like a female character who has popped in and out. She's like a recurring character in many of these, which is also fun. The plot is decent. I like how the authors now they can use the Germans as the bad guys because World War One has started. I liked it when they just had to like insinuate there were already evil plans going on beforehand for world domination because Indy fighting Germans is the thing and they can't use Nazis. I'm gonna put this one in B as well. It's good. It's not one of the most memorable ones though. But again, I think all of these are very solid. After Mountain of Fire, we get Pirate's Loot. Again, this one features Miss Seymour from the show. Oh yeah, that would have been nice. And Pirate's Loot, Indy is in Maine, and he's searching for the treasure of Captain Kidd. And he meets the ghost of a girl who was murdered, or died, It's good, it's fun, it's solid. And this is the first time Indiana Jones has encountered anything supernatural, continuity-wise, which is interesting. And now, just the way I'm describing it right now, this is kind of like a Stephen King story. Indy is in Maine, there's ghosts. Yeah. It was just missing the perversion and the violence. And there is some violent stuff going on near the end with how some of the antagonists get defeated. But yeah, this is a solid adventure. It gets an A. It gets an A. If I'm not mistaken, that only leaves the one with the best title, Young Indiana Jones and the Eye of the Tiger. This is the one where he fights Rocky Balboa. Yeah, in India, he befriends a local Indian prince, and they go to some ruins and they find like an ancient amulet, which turns the Indian prince into an actual tiger. And there's some fun shenanigans going on. It's fun. I had a lot of fun reading it. But I don't think it's that memorable. I love India as a setting for adventure stories. As you know, the best movies ever made, Temple of Doom and Octopussy. But I'm not sure if I could put this in A. I'm gonna put this in B, but it's a very solid. Yeah, very solid B. Oh yeah, and that finishes the American Young Indie series. That leaves us with the French exclusive Young Indie books. The first one, Young Indiana Jones and the Phantom of the Klondike. Indy going to Canada. This one is interesting because it takes place literally 30 seconds after the opening scene of Last Crusade. In 1912 with the Young Indy flashback. We literally open with Henry Sr. still writing in the Grail Diary. And we learn Miss Seymour was sitting in the backyard the entire time during that whole flashback scene in Last Crusade. Fantastic. And Indy goes on this adventure. An old, not even like a friend, like an acquaintance of Henry Sr., is in trouble in Klondike. He's apparently haunted by, what was it, the Wendigo? And there's a nice historical thing going on there with like the gold rush and what's really happening to this man. That's all fun. Indy also meets the author Jack London, which I like that these French novels also kept that up, with Indy just running into every historical person known to man. So I'm gonna put this one in A. Even above most of these, honestly. I think this one was really great. I hope Jason Solo is still in the comments, because there is one coming up where Indy meets a certain famous person you're going to enjoy. But the next one is Indiana Jones and the Radioactive Vial. A radioactive vial has been stolen from the Marie Curie Institute. And Indy has to find it. He has to fight Germans, of course, because they have another master plan to take over the world. And it's fun. I like the Paris setting in this one, because a lot of it deals with like the underground of that filthy, disgusting shithole of a city. So, that's nice. I like the radioactive aspect in here, actually. I think this is a good A. Yeah, this is a solid A. The third one would be the Metropolitan Violin. This one takes place in New York. It doesn't have supernatural stuff. A violin gets stolen from the Metropolitan Museum or whatever. Indy and his father are there, and Herman Mueller, Indy's obese friend. And they have to go after the thief, because Herman also gets kidnapped. So Indy is teaming up with a young crook named Al Capone. So yeah, obviously it's fun. I like the twist why this violin is really important, that even young Al Capone is going after it. There's fun action in here, like at the Niagara Falls. It is up there. It is up there. Henry and Indy together on adventures is always good. Oh, I may do it. S. Because with S, I'm also thinking, what are the books I would definitely, the first ones I would recommend to like newcomers, to people interested in reading Indy. And yeah, Metropolitan Violin is up there. After that one, we get... Okay. The Secret Meteorite. Indy is in either Canada or Alaska. He's in some snowy place. I don't even remember now. And he is tasked by the Eskimos to bring like a sacred stone to its resting place. And he's getting haunted down by a crook called Björk. It's solid, but it's not too memorable to me. I would give it a good B. I like the setting. I like all the local stuff with the Eskimos, and that's good. But yeah, it's not too memorable, sadly. But it's good. It's a good B. Oh, I just realized. Okay, Jason, I mentioned this, that you should stick around. The thing I was thinking of, the historical character, that was already in the Titanic adventure. Because young Indiana Jones meets Arthur Conan Doyle, the author of Sherlock Holmes, right before he goes on board the Titanic. And if I remember correctly, he just meets Doyle because he wrote to him because, hey, I'm a big fan of your books. So he meets Indy. Great stuff. Okay, the next French novel is Young Indiana Jones and the Bermuda Triangle. I like this one because it doesn't have supernatural in it, which would have been the most obvious thing to do with the Bermuda Triangle as the big thing. But it doesn't. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but it's well done, and I enjoyed it. It's a fun adventure. I would rank this one a very solid A. Yeah, even before some of these. After that one, we get the Child Lama. And it's not the animal llama, it's like in Dalai Lama. So a llama gets kidnapped. It's the titular child llama. He has kind of befriended Indy. Indy and Henry are on their way to a monastery because they want to meet like an old friend of Henry who has sadly passed away, so that journey was useless. But the child llama gets kidnapped. Indy and Henry get framed. They have to get out and, save the day, find the child llama, prove their innocence. It's a solid young Indy adventure. I would rank this one a solid A as well. Not the best one, but it's good. It had this thing that kind of annoyed me with the French novels, because Henry is calling his son Indy and Indiana a couple of times. And like in this one, for example, Indy does make a big deal out of it. When his dad is like proud for a moment, he does call him like Indiana. And Indy does recognize that it's a rare occurrence. I get that, but I still prefer if like Henry never called him by that nickname until Last Crusade. That's just a me thing, but at least the book, this one at least, does address that it's like a rare thing, and Indy demands his dad call him Indiana. So it's fine. There is an explanation for that in here. Then the last French young indie novel would be The Spectre of Venice. A terrorist is running around Venice just blowing shit up, and Indy has to stop him. But Indy is also teaming up with a descendant of Casanova, who's searching for Casanova's hidden treasure. It's nuts. It's fun. Honestly, this one also goes up into S in terms of like the young indie books I would recommend. Yeah, I would put this one up here. Okay, that is all the official Indiana Jones novels, but I have 3 fan fictions on here which I liked. So the first one is written by a German author. It's Indiana Jones and the Smoking Mirror by Robert Anderson. This is the greatest fan fiction I've ever read. It does have moments that feel fan fiction-y, but for the most part, this completely nails the tone of an Indiana Jones story. This feels official. This feels like it could have been released as an Indiana Jones novel in like after Army of the Dead, for example, officially released, and nobody would have questioned it. This is a great Indiana Jones adventure. It hits all the beats, and I would recommend this over not most, but I would recommend this over many of the official novels. Honestly, I have to put this in S because it kind of blew me away how good it is. And one of the reasons I also include it is because I appreciate the effort. This guy, not only he wrote it, he got a cover made, he got it self-printed, he got Harrison Ford's German voice actor to voice a trailer for the book. And I think that's wonderful. So yeah, I'm gonna put this even above. Yeah, I will put it here. Very fucking solid. If you don't want to read fan fiction, you have like a thing against it, I would recommend trying this one. If I told you this was an official book, you wouldn't question it. It is that good. I think this one really just fucking nails it. Like that. Then the other 2 ones, these ones, both of them are written by, he's credited as C. Randall Nicholson. And I include them because they are fan fiction novelizations of Indiana Jones scripts. As we know, The Last Crusade started as Indiana Jones and the Monkey King, and then what became Crystal Skull started as the what was it called? Stupid retarded title. The Saucer Men from Mars. So these two are novelizations of those scripts. Let's start with The Monkey King. This novelization is fun. I like the MacGuffin, and I like Indy. I think the writing is solid. I think it's an easy, quick read with good comedic moments. I like what's happening with the main love interest, who's kind of not really into Indy, and there's also like one of Indy's students dragging along, who's like lovesick, and that's kind of it's on the edge of becoming cringy, but it is funny for the most part. Um, like I said, I like the MacGuffin. Also, you can tell the author knows about the whole like Indian Marian age thing because there's some jokes on Indy's Expanse here with the Betsy character because he slept with one of his students. I think she's like 2021 ish. But the grown up, very like adult female character, she kind of makes fun of Indy or like insults him as like, I'm just writing the notes for like when I have to go to trial for your pedophilia case. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I laugh at it because like I get this is in reference to the Marion thing and George Lucas' sick mind, but I don't know. I would put this in a solid B. It's good. Now, Saucer Man from Mars. This one is pure schlock. Like, Indiana Jones and Aliens can be done well. I think it has been done well in like that comic, The Tomb of the Gods. That is more Lovecraftian beings than like straight up aliens, but aliens in Indiana Jones can be done well. Like people love Fate of Atlantis. That features aliens. At least the comic adaptation I read. I don't know if it's in the game, but I'm pretty sure it is. This one, holy fucking shit! Saucer Man from Mars goes for it. This one doesn't. There are fights in midair versus UFOs. It is nuts, and I love it. And the author changed some things. It's not a direct adaptation of the script because the script would have contradicted what came later with Crystal Skull, because Indy would have gotten married to a lady there, and there would have been cameos by like Willie Scott and Marion, which is in here, but it's handled in a way where it could just be Indy's like hallucinations because he's like fucking drunk and they are shitting on him and like trash talking him. That scene is very funny. I think the comedy in this one is better than in the Monkey King novel. Also, we get this author is a big fan. You can tell because he does connect this book and Monkey King a lot to like other Indiana Jones media, and it's not too fan fictiony in that regard. The wedding is fun because we get fucking Remy from the Young Indy Chronicles is at the wedding. Short Round is there, that was in the script, but also Mac from Crystal Skull is also brought in here. So that is all fun stuff. And the ending is a little different because in the original, Indy would have gotten married. In this one, he obviously doesn't because Crystal Skull would come later. And the aliens and how that is handled is so cheesy. It does evoke the feeling of a 50s B movie because Indy is really taking the place of like the scientist who's like standing around and like trying to figure out what's going on. And for the most part, it's about what this alien artifact is, the cylinder thing that they have, before it gets really into action. And there's Russians involved as well. This is better than Crystal Skull because I appreciate going for it. Going for the stupidity. Crystal Skull suffered because it stuffed the alien concept into the classic Indy formula. This one is embracing the stupidity of Indy becoming a 50s alien schlocky B movie. And yeah, I was surprised how good this is. I'm putting this one in A. And yeah, this finishes it off. This is all of the Indiana Jones novels. This was shorter than the Star Wars ranking, thank God, because there are way more of those novels. This is how I would recommend them as well. So yeah, if you like the Indiana Jones movies, if you like reading, if you just want something easy and fun, Indiana Jones in terms of novels is underrated. I would recommend, top to bottom, that's how I would do it. Don't read Sky Pirates, but everything else here, even in D, to an extent, is worth a shot. This is one of the most quality-wise consistent franchises. I wish there was more stuff, but at the same time, I'm glad with what we have. That it's not as overcrowded as like Star Wars or Alien is starting to get that franchise. So yeah, that's it. I kind of lost my voice during this, but it was worth it. That's all the Indiana Jones novels. That's how I would rank them. Just great fucking stuff all around. And I think, yeah, this top row is the stuff I would recommend the most to people. All right. I hope this was helpful to like the two people that watched this. And I will see you next time. This was a fun one. All right. Goodbye.